5.
Chapter 5. That's what I was waiting for. I was waiting. I wait every chapter 5 just so I can play that one. Chapter 5. Well, we got a show for you. VeggieTales. Broccoli, celery, has to be some blasphemous lies. There's never been so blasphemous as VeggieTales. All right. So, just in case I forgot, which I think I didn't, for the record, there was a prophet of armored war. World War I. This is a book. Let's see. Oh, it's green, so it's going to be kind of weird. Tanks and Weapons of World War I. So, let me read really quick about this guy here. Lieutenant Colonel, later Major General John Frederick Charles Fuller. That's Fellar. That means to war for the land. I can get into the etymology, but he said, who is remembered today as one of the most original and influential military thinkers of this century. Educated abroad at Malvern. Yeah, they're always educated abroad. Let's see. Oh, appendicitis kept him out of major battles of the Boer War. Yeah, heel spurs kept Trump out of the Vietnam War. We get it. Then he's called a prophet, huh? So who is he? I think it's British. So he's a British commander here. John Frederick Charles Fuller. Remember, Frederick is literally Pharaoh's wild ass, and then Rick is leader or power or something like that. So just remember, in World War I, the British had the blasphemous audacity, as they usually do, to call a man who is not on the right side prophet of armored war. Not profit as in making money. It's spelt prophet as in they claim he is sent by God. But remember, the Most High called Nebuchadnezzar his servant. So I don't know what these people think they're doing by these titles, but they're not impressing me. So I gotta show you guys some things that are very interesting. I might have shown this already, but I want to redo it in this section. If I had shown it, if I forgot to show it, then this is the first time. So the dragon. Remember when I read about the serpents of orthodoxy, and it said that it could remind people of Chthonian cults, but it's not that. And they had all this article saying how it's not worshiping Satan, even though it obviously is. And the people are dressed as the Chemarim, the black-robed priests that Josiah, we'll go read what Josiah did to them. So, we're going to look at Chthonic first. And it's nice and bright today. I don't even have to use the hot lights. Because it's getting hotter this week for some reason. Before it gets cold again. It's this dead lake, I blame, and I won't say which lake. But there's a dead lake, it's artificial, and it causes lots of trouble. But anyway, dragon coin. So a decadrachm, I think I did do this because remember I said like the F word and is probably something like that's worthlessness or destruction. So when I when I put fu effing f into the translator, it said something in that I can only recognize the last part. It said Drachana Drachoitze. And I'm like, that's their word for the F word? Is like Drachana or Drachoitze? It's like a house. It sounds like a worthless house of worthlessness. That's what it sounds like. So their word for the F word is just worthlessness. It's Bochette, basically, but you know. So it's interesting that their people linguistically don't like the dragon, but you got those serpents of orthodoxy. And I'm going to find that picture. There's a picture that's depicting Messiah returning in one of these old Russian churches in Russia, and it looks just like Trump. And I think that's by design because they praise this thing called like the Lord of the Golden Hair. But I have to look through my history books because I think AI is trying to get rid of it, just like the pictures of Ghislaine Maxwell and Trump, how there used to be a lot, and now like there's only a few. You might be able to find them, but it's like the search engine's being messed up. So this is 450 BC to 100 AD. A lot of yeah. So basically the 100 AD part, this coin existed when John saw Revelation. So ancient Greek decadrachm, it literally sounds like the 10 dragons. If you look up Greek history, there's this thing where they claim that this dragon's teeth were like seeds, and like these men popped up out of the teeth. You gotta look at like Greek mythology. It's weird. So they worship the dragon, and so does China. Isn't that weird? But anyway, a lot of things, different cultures worship dragons, and then there's ones that were anti-dragon worship. Um, so this is just an example how their coin is deca, which is 10, and 10 dragon, and the dragon has the 10 horns and everything. So you got to understand why it says dragon. And Egypt was called a dragon. So there's 7 nations that surround ancient Israel. They're usually controlled by the dragon. Whether it's Egypt or whether it's Rome, there's not a big difference between Egypt and Rome when it comes to their royal genealogies. So Greek generals, or strategoi, that's an interesting term, were responsible for combining military and political skills. Their duties included mobilizing citizens and medics. You're about to see Event 201 right now, or the years 2020 to 2023, and it's going to start again. Mobilizing citizens and medics, managing and maintaining warships. Isn't it interesting that warship sounds like worship? Coincidence, right? Presiding over trials and bringing desertion cases to court. These are the tribunals they keep talking about, the Q people fomenting, even though if they look Semitic, they're going to be part of that. Anybody who looks Semitic is going to be part of this, myself included. So during peacetime, they were also involved in financial administration of the naval forces and meeting with the Council of 500. In special cases, a general might be appointed autocrator and have full command. Gee, Alex Jones claims the military put Trump in. Why does he say that? He knows Greek history. Sorry, Greek history. Remember, Greek is the same thing as American. It doesn't really mean anything. It's an ideology that they try to imprint onto people who have already been imprinted by Abraham and Scripture. Their language was given to them by Semites. So, okay. The Greek 10. I think I'll end up going over this. It's literally dragon worship, but I'll go over this because I have the internet articles up already. Revelation Beast. Oh yeah, I drew this a while ago and I showed it. The dragon is not. Remember they used to call Anatolia, or modern Turkey, they used to call it Asia Minor because these people invaded it and tried to de-Shem it. Anatolia, or modern Turkey, is the hub of all the archaeological and linguistic proof of Shemitic thought, philosophy, scripture. And that's why they invaded it. And then them mixing in blood in order to try to de-Shem people is where you get the Soviet phenotype that existed before they called Russians Soviets. And I explain this in other videos and how I view this. But Soviet is, to me, a spiritual thing. Anybody can just become a Soviet. It would be called a sleeper agent. So I believe Trump's going to say in his inauguration speech, he's going to say various phrases that might actually activate these people. They literally get very excited when he says China. He emphasizes it on purpose so that they praise and worship every time he says China. I'm not kidding. Go watch his speeches. So, Manchuria to India is literally the Shinites and the Sinites, and those are Canaanites. The maritime beast, Soviet Roman over the Greeks, just like we have a Soviet government over Americans. We have a Soviet government over Israelis, and they command, these are Soviets, these are non-Semitic people commanding very Semitic people to murder other Semitic people. And whenever I tell this to their IDF officers, they understand it. They're like they try to fight it at first, and then they're like, oh crap. So I'm coming after your IDF with ideologies. Do you understand? I will speak to your IDF and I will convert them. Do you understand? So, 10 horns Stratagoe, 10 horns of the maritime beast, 10 horns of the dragon. Traveling philosophers always went to India and China and different stuff like that, bringing in Eastern mysticism. And then you have it all combined to the New World Order that keeps trying to pop up. So you'll see iterations of this. The philosophy, Bavarian Illuminati, GOP, Grand Old Party. You ever wonder why it's called the Grand Old Party? Because it's Egyptian. The WHO, World Economic Forum, OPEC, Belt and Road, APAC, and APAC. So the bottom APAC is the Asian Pacific something. So it's all the Asiatic countries. APAC with the AI, PAC. Remember, AI means destruction or to go towards destruction. But APAC as a word means to restrain. So the first APAC is restraining the Asiatics. The second APAC is restraining the Semites. And the OPEC is restraining everybody else through fossil fuels that don't even come from fossils. So, yeah, I had to correct myself. Sometimes I still say fossil fuels. It's hard. So the iron of this is NATO, UN, CIA, Project Mockingbird, NASA, NSA, FBI, EU, Vatican. You see, has two horns like a lamb, speaks like a dragon. It's every time they try to do their democracy scam in every country. They even make jokes about it in America, where it's like, oh, they have oil, where we need to bring them democracy. They make a joke of it. Everybody knows. It's like that song. Everybody knows that the deal's rotten. Old Black Joe's still picking cotton for your pittance and bones. Everybody knows. Excuse me for a second. All right. So, this is the right one. I think I showed this one already. China Europe Railway Express. Just showing you the railways are there, just like Pink Floyd says. In derelict sidings, the poppies entwine. That's opioids. With cattle trucks lying in wait for the next time. The land is red, the sea is blue. They do this Freemasonically. It's Joachim and Boaz. The corruption of it. And so by land is red because you conquer land through blood. And the sea is blue because that's the priesthood of the maritime beast. Here's the undersea cables again. That's maritime beast again. And I forgot to actually post those. I need to post those in HD, like a downloadable form. Nobody's really doing it anyway, so there's no hurry. Nobody's actually utilizing any of the many things I give. But I don't do it for myself. So, and then IBM reminder. Oops, what did I just click on? I hate it when I do that. Okay. Sorry. IBM reminder that tens of thousands of developers, partners, entrepreneurs, students, and other enthusiasts building cognitive apps on Watson, up to 3 billion monthly API calls generated by Watson apps, and 270 plus, just like the 270 plus provinces of Medo-Persia. Can't make this up. Communication Watson-powered apps across industries, hospitality, transportation, retail, health, media, financial services, law, legal, education, cybersecurity, IT support, nonprofit management. This is what they're trying to control with one single thing that they're naming after a man that I can't find. Oh, here it is. Thomas J. Watson. And here we go again. In 1937, as president of the International Chamber of Commerce, I wonder who knits a bald wig for Jack the Ripper, who sits at the head of the Chamber of Commerce. In 1937, as president of the International Chamber of Commerce, Watson met Adolf Hitler. Remember, Hitler got to host the Olympics. During 1930s, IBM's German subsidiary was its most profitable foreign operation, and a 2001 book by Edwin Black, IBM and the Holocaust, which is like a pretty expensive book, by the way, claims that Watson's pursuit, that's anarcho-capitalism for you, claims that Watson's pursuit of profit led him to personally approve and spearhead IBM's strategic technological relationship with Nazi Germany, describes how IBM provided the tabulating equipment Hitler used to round up Jays. These are Semites of various religions, of various beliefs, and they had lots of gold because they went off of Abrahamic principles. You understand? So, rounding up these people, his Hollerith punch card machines are in the Holocaust Museum today. The book describes IBM's punch cards as a card with standardized holes, each representing a different trait of the individual. The card was fed into a reader and sorted. Punch cards identified Jays by name. So, that eventually became the Scantrons that were used. I don't know how much they use them now. The Scantrons that are used in schools to take tests. Take with that what you will. And remember, the word Holocaust comes from Holocaustos or Holocausticus, something like that. It's a whole burnt animal offering. So if these people want to come to me and ask me, do you think the Holocaust happened? I need to ask them, What is the definition of Holocaust? Where does it come from? Why do these people act like they care, yet they're labeling this an animal sacrifice? That's what I have a problem with. Until you stop calling it that, I don't have to answer your questions. So, just a reminder, who owns Putin? If any Muslim wants to say that Putin is good, well, I challenge him to go to Afghanistan and tell him that Russia's going to save everybody. See how long they last. Pretty boys. All right. So look at that. Black eyes, marked with the he's a symbiote. He's a Soviet. He'll do whatever. His personal priest is an ex-Soviet. So can't make this up. Don't forget the bear cult market. Bear market coming 2025, warns David Roche. Oh, gee. I wonder if somebody knew that a couple years before, a certain amount of time before, they can just start a cult that can pay for everything. Another reminder here on your money is the national symbol of ancient Egypt with the star of Remphan, which is Rapean. It's the evil mouth of men. Just a reminder, also a reminder, there's these two types of skulls. One's Hamitic, one's Japhethite. The Japhethite is in white, the Hamitic is in black, even though there's white and black Hamites and white and black Japhethites. Because, oh, look at this. Most of Africa in the late 1800s, early 1900s is mostly European skulls. But here in the Sudan, look up the history of the Sudan right now. You have this gray area. That'd be Semitic skulls. Then you have these people with slightly more Hamitic Semitic skulls forming tribes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3 down in the lower left corner, lower west corner. So where these tribes are forming is literally in the Congo, which they've been trying to conquer for a long time, and the Sudan here, and all northern Africa here, having Semitic skulls. Yeah. Go look up what's happening in the Sudan right now. There's Europe. Very, very, very interesting map. Switzerland is full of full Hamitic skulls, and then half Hamitic, half Semitic skulls, which I think might have to do with the black hair and the it going white in only certain areas. That's why I said Hitler shaved the sides of his mustache, shaved his beard, and shaved the sides of his head, because he's trying to hide his magician's lineage, his Soviet, Swiss, Germanic, Roman Egyptian heritage. I can see all these people. So, all I have to do is look into their eyes and their skull and ask them a few questions to get their behavior. And I know their genetics more than 23andMe. To the point where some of them actually look scared when I say it. They're like, how do you know? It's like, why do you look scared? You should be like, oh, that's interesting. People who seem scared when I do that, I keep my eye on them. Because people who get nervous about that, it seems like, it's like, are you hiding something? Why are you nervous that I'm saying this? But anyway, so let's just get right into these cults here. Chthonian, because this is going to reveal a lot, and it's going to be kind of freaky. So just a little disclaimer, it's about to get freaky. All right, chthonic. You know, like a chthonic state. Grave of Lysimachades, or whatever his name is. 2 men and 2 women sit together as Charon, the ferryman to the underworld, approaches to take him to the land of the dead. Interesting. You know, this photo looks almost like when FDR, Stalin, um, and two other guys, a Catholic priest and another guy, all made a decision about World War II in Egypt. This might be what the Big Four is modeled after. But anyway, go look that up for yourself. This is just stuff coming up off the top of my head. So the word Chthonic or Chthonian is derived from ancient Greek chthon, which in Hebrew would be the cop of the vortex on your skin. So it's dark witchcraft. Right, when I say that, there's a little tiny spider right here. Now you did. Weaving spiders come not here. So, meaning earth or soil. Yeah, that's what they say. But if you Hebraize it, it's literally the cop of the teth, the vortex cop on your skin. And anybody who's actually dealt with people who do black magic, oh boy, is that term accurate. It says it translates more directly in, under, or beneath the earth. No, see, that's just saying what they worship. The Hebrew describes what they do. Their language describes what they do it for. Every language describes something different. The Hebrew is just multidimensional, and it can describe everything the other languages can at the same time. You have to research it to really understand what I'm saying. Which can be differentiated from ge, which speaks of the living surface of the land on the earth, and Gaia means to break forth in Hebrew, and Gimel is investment, so that makes sense, because remember, they got their alphabet from the Semites. Abraham, I believe his three friends, after they got rich from Sodom and Gomorrah being plundered, or Sodom being plundered before it got destroyed, when he had to rescue Lot, they got their share, his three friends. I think they actually started the seafaring business that the Phoenicians took over and then didn't give them credit. Just like the Canaanites took over Abraham's merchant industry and then didn't give him glory. And then they turned Canaan into the central hub of international trade and black magic and trafficking. But you have to research history for that. I can't explain it all. So in Greek, chthonic is derived from is a descriptive word, for things relating to the underworld, and can be used in the context of chthonic idols, chthonic rituals, chthonic cults, and more. Remember, the word God doesn't mean the same as Elohim, but I still will call it an idol. I won't call it that. I won't even read it. So this is as compared to the more commonly referred to Olympic idols and their associated rites and cults. Remember, they let Hitler host the Olympics for a reason. It's the merging of chthonic and Olympic. That's Antichrist. But anyway, Olympic idols are understood to reference that which exists above the earth, particularly in the sky. But it's actually the prince and power, the air. The word air used there, I think, is like eros, and it's literally the bottom layer of atmosphere that we live in. It's not the entire sky. It's literally the what they would call the ether. So all those what is it, the Awar Anon guy trying to praise the ether? It's like, yeah, these are people, it's sons of disobedience. That's why they praise the ether. The ether is just an energy field, and these people worship the energy field, and they derive their technology. Their technology interacts with the energy field. They call it the ionosphere. So, I mean, try to argue with that. So it says, and in scripture they're called teraphim. They're actually earthbound. but because they're floating around in the same place birds do, they try to say they're from the sky. It's like, no, 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 no. Watch that movie, Cowboys versus Aliens. It explains to you this actual thing. They're actually ground things. The Cowboys call them demons in the movie. Um, they're catonic, and they take you into caves and they strap you to virtual reality to suck your soul energy out. Seriously, watch that movie. It's weird. So, these idols that are related to agriculture are also considered to have chthonic associations, as planting and growing take place in part under the earth. Oops. I wanted to skip that. I don't care if it's a painting. I don't like showing nudity. So chthonic and Oranic, or Olympic. So remember Orin, the fields of Orin that David Bowie talks about in his Black Star song, saying he's a black star. The fields of Orin. Or Olympic are not completely opposite descriptors. They do not clearly differentiate types of idols and worship into distinct categories, but represent a cultic spectrum. This is literally the light spectrum of visible of one side going to the gamma, one side going to the RF signals. This is the origins of that. It says these terms communicate associations with the underworld and or agriculture. This makes some idols such as Hades, Persephone, and Erinyes more likely to be considered chthonic due to their proximity to the underworld. While this is the case, virtually any idol could be considered chthonic to emphasize different aspects of the idol. No, it's because they're all from the underworld. And they just pretend like, half of them pretend they're from the sky when they're really not. They call them, they have different names for them. You can call them Rephaim. Islam calls them jinn. There's different names for them. So, for example, Demeter and Hermes are categorized within the 12 Olympian idols, but are often considered chthonic. That's because Hermes represents David, who played sweet music and stole Ares' cattle. But he didn't actually steal it. The cattle willingly came over. You see? And then he's related to Mercury, which the whole progress of alchemy was made faster through David and Solomon, because David and Solomon just discovered things through revelation. And then because all the kings of the world came to Solomon, he freely gave them the information, just like I'm freely giving any information I feel I have. You understand? And then the good and evil are how people decide to use it. And good and evil aren't moral in scripture. Good is just prosperous for you and others. Evil is destructive to you and others. And also something that's only good for you but destructive to others is evil. And something that's only destructive to you but beneficial to others is good. You see how that works? So, Zeus, it says, has also been referenced with the surname Chthonios, demonstrating the situational use of chthonic description. No, because some worshipped him as a giant serpent underground. Some say he slayed the serpent, and the rotting serpent underground is what makes the gas come up in Delphi, I think it is, right? The Oracle of Delphi. Look up the Oracle of Delphi. They picture her as the Scarlet Woman on the beast. And she supposedly smells this natural gas and has visions. But they want to tell you it's some rotting serpent or something and to worship it, because they don't want you to know that they actually piped the gas and then all the priests got to have, everything we have with piped gas. But anyway, that's literally pharaonic. The pharaohs had that. So in America, most of us live like Pharaoh did. I want people to realize that. All right, no nudity in this one, thank goodness. In ancient Greece, the names of idols were sometimes followed by an epithet, similar in concept to a surname. So you wonder why we have like 3 names in this country. The purpose of the epithet was to describe a characteristic or association of an idol. Interesting. They don't like it when you take on a Hebrew name because it doesn't have any false idols in it. The epithets Ctonios and Ctonia would, for some reason I thought Melania, but I know it doesn't sound the same, but for some reason that's what I thought. Would follow the name of an idol or female idol to reference their relationship either to the underworld or agriculture. See how the sky ones were just about agriculture? They still had to deal with the ground. They're still earthbound. That's why they say extraterrestrials, because they're earthbound. They try to tell you they come from the sky. And if you look at all these people who supposedly psychically connect to them, they basically tell you they're demons. But anyway, for example, Hermes Ctonios refers to Hermes' role as the underworld escort. See, this is because of what David wrote. He was a foreshadowing of Messiah. They based this off of David because David existed like 500 years before the Tyrannos came, or whatever they were called. Literally, Tyre sank into the ocean, and then the remnants of them took over Greece first. Why? Because they were having revenge on the Semites who prophesied it. In contrast, Charon does not necessitate a Ctonian epithet, as his relation to the underworld is his main attribution. Additional examples of idols with recorded epithets include Demeter Ctonia, Gaia Ctonia, that's Gaia, Persephone, blah blah blah, and Hecate, who's queen of the witches, by the way, Hecate. And her iterations look like the Statue of Liberty, but what do I know? I just researched history. As discussed, many idols can be considered Ctonic based on what attributes are being referenced, though this is the case, a few idols are most commonly considered Ctonic due to their considerable role in the underworld and or agriculture. These included Hades, and he is the ruler of the underworld. Persephone is the queen of the underworld alongside Hades. And they just, explain the seasons in a nonsensical way. It is for these reasons that's mainly associated with the underworld. So the Furies, that's the one that they showed nude, literally are like naked women that come and take vengeance on you if you take false oaths. Which is, I could see where they get that from. It sounds like it makes sense. Offerings were a significant aspect of ancient Greek religion. This is where it gets interesting. They were used to communicate with the idols and commonly took the forms of sacrifice and libation. Libation, okay, yeah. A liquid offering, but sometimes that can be their own blood. Offerings were central to the worship of both Ctonic and Aaronic idols, though the specifics of these rituals differed. These differences provide insight in ways which Greeks perceive Ctonic and Aaronic idols, as well as the ways they related to them. So there is a common interpretation, and then everybody can have their own individual interpretation. It's very American, right? Sacrifice. Aaronic sacrifices took place during the daytime and included wine as a libation. They were performed on high altars which resided outside of temples. The animal sacrifice was roasted with the smoke traveling upward towards the sky in the direction that they assumed the Olympic idols were. Once cooked, the worshippers would feast on the sacrifice with the idea that they were sharing this meal with the idol. They got this also from Abraham and from the Semites, but of course they corrupt it. Or somebody corrupted it, right? Some Soviet came in, and they're called Romans because they're Egyptian royalty. But anyway, the worshippers would eat the consumable portions of the animal and burn the rest for the idol. While performing the sacrifice, worshippers would raise their palms open and upward, again gesturing towards the sky where their Aaronic idols allegedly resided. Ctonic sacrifice was commonly defined by offering a black or dark-hided animal to the idol. Somebody tried to get me to do that, by the way. And I couldn't do it because I was nervous that I wouldn't do it right. And so they had to do it, and they almost cut their femoral artery. They sliced their leg open and had to go to the hospital. It's like, yeah, why don't you try not deceiving me and you won't almost kill yourself? So, um, then I got to white unblemished lambs and did the biblical kosher slaughtering, which gives them more dignity and is more humane than 99% of American animal slaughter. So, in case anybody has a problem with me doing that. Anyway, Catonic sacrifice was commonly defined by offering a black or dark hided animal to the idol. Worshippers did not consume the sacrifice themselves, but instead burned the entirety of the animal to the idol. This type of sacrifice is called a holocaust, defined by the completely burned and destroyed nature of the offering. Aww. Religious animal sacrifice. Isn't that something? Let's look at that. The word derives from holocaustos, that's what I thought, form of sacrifice in which the victim was reduced to ash, as distinguished from an animal sacrifice that resulted in a communal meal. I'm sure those happen though. But yeah, so why do they call it that if it's an animal sacrifice? Isn't that wouldn't that be considered offensive? They're calling them all animals who were slain. Why don't they have another word? What's interesting is Shoah, the alleged Hebrew word they use for it, just means to be made a free man, which is what happened. Hitler signed documents with rabbis called the Transfer Agreement to transfer as many people as possible to the land that they blasphemously call Palestine because they couldn't buy up the land. So they wanted to just ship people there to get numbers, and then you just play politics with the two sides. Um so though it says the temples in which these sacrifices were performed were typically built outside city walls, with caves and grottos being popular locations, believed to be openings for chthonic things. This is what that Cowboys versus Aliens movie actually depicts. Worshippers lowered their palms and faced them downwards towards the earth and underworld, which is interesting because Iron Man, when he flies, he has to do that. When Iron Man takes off in the movies, he puts his palms down to the earth. But anyway, in the direction of blah blah blah. The goal of chthonic worship was to interact with idols beneath the earth. Listen very carefully. So offerings were directed towards the ground to reach these idols. For this reason, incense was not used in chthonic worship, as the smoke would rise upwards rather than downwards. Wine was not utilized in this form of worship, but instead honey was a common libation used. So, a chthonic sacrifice requires things where the smoke doesn't actually ascend, it comes back down on the earth. So a lot of industries in the US added on to all of our vehicles. That's what their smoke does. Their smoke does not ascend, it settles on the earth and poisons people, basically. Look up the pollution that happened during World War I and World War II because of their industries. And they would throw all the bodies in pits. Just sacrificial practices would not always follow these exact patterns, but these are differences which can allude to whether the worshiper is conducting an Aaronic or chthonic sacrifice. Though the specifics of chthonic and Aaronic sacrifices differ, they both have similar goals. Sure they do. In both scenarios, worshippers perform sacrifices to communicate and forge a relationship with these idols. They may perform a sacrifice to thank, honor, or request a favor. Interesting, because Agamemnon sacrificed his own daughter, his own virgin daughter, in order to get a favorable wind in a battle, and he still lost the war. Isn't that interesting? Does that sound familiar? You know, these people are obsessed with the city of Troy and Agamemnon and all that. They're obsessed with Troy. If you Hebraize it, is literally the mark of the evil eye, the evil fountain, or the evil testimony of the city, or the mark of the evil stripping away or terrifying. Tara oi, Tara aen, or Tara ur. Also sounds like tire, doesn't it? Getting somewhere, aren't we? So let me go to this one now. Hey. I think that's good enough. Ancient Greece with a northeastern Mediterranean civilization. See, they're more eastern. Existing from the Greek Dark Ages of the 12th and 9th centuries BC to the end of the classical antiquity, 600 AD, that comprised a loose collection of culturally and linguistically related city-states and other territories. So they even functioned sort of like the Hebrew tribes. Prior to the Roman period, Soviet period, most of these regions were officially unified. Once under the kingdom of Macedon, from 338 to 323 BC. Interesting, 323 area code. In Western history, the era of classical antiquity was immediately followed by the early Middle Ages and the Byzantine period. There's a Parthenon right here. 3 centuries after the decline of Mycenaean Greece during the Bronze Age collapse, Greek urban polis, just cities, began to form in the 8th century BC. So they started building cities, ushering in the Archaic period and the colonization of the Mediterranean basin. This was followed by the age of classical Greece, from the Greco-Persian Wars to the death of Alexander the Great of Athens. Or Alexander the Great, sorry. Remember, he was Macedonian. He's a Soviet compared to the Greeks. This is what I call Soviets, or people who doppelgang and act like they're the liberators. Now, all Alexander actually did is, in his madness, which I think was caused by Elohim for a purpose, he conquered so much through into the east that it poured all of Greek culture into it. In other words, he made an opening for everything linguistically Hebrew and what they mislabel Greek to go into the east, and then it swings back like a pendulum. Persia swung this way, Greece swings this way. England swings like a pendulum blue. Bobby's on bicycles 2 by 2. Westminster Abbey, the Tower, Big Ben. Rosy red cheeks of the little children. They tell you this in music. Because they just wield the power of Medo-Persia and supposed Greece in one nation, and it swings like a pendulum. So it's included the Golden Age of Athens and the Peloponnesian War, the unification of Greece by Macedon under Philip II, and subsequent conquest of the Achaemenid Empire by Alexander the Great spread Hellenistic civilization across the Middle East. See, that's a clouding word. That's like Americanism. It's like, no, 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 no. You might spread Americanism, but you're gonna get Semitic thought in there. You're gonna get Christians. You're gonna get Hebrews. You're gonna get all kinds of people when America does it. When these guys are doing it, it's just Semitic thought is able to flow into that vacuum. That's why they call it power vacuums and stuff. Oh, they made a power vacuum and that allowed ISIS and you know. The Hellenistic period is considered to have ended in 30 BC. Interesting. When the last Hellenistic kingdom, Ptolemaic Egypt was annexed by the Roman Republic. Oh, go research it. Go research it. It's delicious. You gotta read history, man. Classical Greek culture, especially philosophy, had a powerful influence on ancient Rome, of course, because they're Soviet doppelgangers. They don't make anything themselves. They suck it off of other people. It's carried a version of it through the Mediterranean and much of Europe. For this reason, classical Greece is generally considered the cradle of Western civilization. The seminal culture from which the modern West derives many of its founding archetypes and ideas in politics, philosophy, science. Let's see. Politics and society. Let's just do that one. Who dis? Pericles with a Corinthian helmet. Look at these phenotypes. Ancient Greece consisted of several hundred relatively independent city-states, or poleis, probably where you get politics from. Politics are just trying to control Semitic thought, Semitic history, which is scripture. Scripture is the highest form of revelation given to man by Elohim. And he decided to give it to Semitic people through Abraham because of how they thought and how they already ran their lives. Do you understand? To the point where different tribes said that Abraham was like a prince of Elohim among them. They said they acted like he owned the world just by submission. Meanwhile, the anti version of that is the Pope just claiming he owns the world with a papal bull. Go look up the papal bull. It's like 500 years old already, I think. This was a situation unlike most other contemporary societies. Let me see if I can get to that. Government and law code. Basileus, interesting, that sounds like bacteria. Oligarchies, archons. You guys can research this stuff. Oh, look, in many cities, a tyrant, not in the modern sense of repressive autocracies, would at some point seize control and govern according to their own will. Often a populist agenda would help sustain them in power. In a system racked with classic conflict, government by a strong man was often the best solution. You see how they just like make excuses? The tyrants came from Tyre. Do you understand? After Tyre fell into the sea. And then all of a sudden, like, they just show up. All right, here we go. Athens fell under a tyranny in the second half of the 6th century BC. I wonder why. Someone prophesied something would sink into the ocean, didn't they? It's Ezekiel. Go read it. When this tyranny was ended, the Athenians founded the world's first democracy. Oh, they give us the problem, then they offer the solution. As a radical solution to prevent the aristocracy regaining power. But who's the aristocracy? Remember how one of Shem's children or grandchildren, his name was literally aristocracy. Like, you get the aristocracy from Shemites. They don't have to be Hebrews. Hebrews are only a very, very, very small section of Shemites. That's why they can't tell the difference. They try to map our skulls. And so usually their final solution is just get rid of all Semites because that's their best. That's how they think. I just look historically. Citizens' assembly are the ecclesia, which is supposed to be a church, for the discussion of city policy had existed since the reforms of Draco. There was literally a Draco. This is where you get draconian from. Just look it up. All citizens were permitted to attend after the reforms of Solon. Look up Solon. But the poorest citizens could not address the assembly or run for office. That was the fact in America for a long time. Look up American history. With the establishment of the democracy, they try to say it was just black people. No. No, it was any poor person. Doesn't matter their skin color. Look up American history or be doomed to repeat it. With the establishment of the democracy, the assembly became a de jure mechanism of government. All citizens had equal privileges. No, they didn't. Liars. In the assembly, however, non-citizens such as medics, foreigners living in Athens, or slaves had no political rights at all. Go look up the number of slaves according to the number of citizens, and you'll understand what I mean. Okay. You guys gotta research this yourself. It's so interesting. So I'm gonna take this off and just read that one section that I have here. Where is it at? Oh, not that one. Here we go. Athens. Oh, here we go. I already read that. Oh, never mind. Go look up the strategoi. Very interesting word, isn't it? It's a word. It's. I want to get into it. But this is the first hour. I just want to make sure to get everything out. So then the next 3 episodes I do should just be reading. But I hope that was very interesting. And it sure is interesting to me. And I'm just waiting to speak to more IDF officers online and convince them and convert them. You understand? Because there's a door open that no man will shut. If they try to shut this website, there's many websites that do like a sort of random camera thing. It's a door no one will shut. And I'll speak to all your citizens. I will speak to all your IDF soldiers and I'll convert them because they have skulls that their ancestors fought for that they can't ignore it. Once it's given to them, it bugs them. They can't ignore it. They're like, this makes so much sense. I can't argue against it. And it bugs them. And they know it. That's why they try to keep them in police states. Ukraine, Soviet Israel, and the US have the same freaking government. They have the same police state. They're all scared to even talk to each other. And the cops can watch what they're doing on their phone. And when I'm speaking to them, the cops flash their lights at them trying to scare them. And I'm like, what's going on? It's like, oh, and there's an Israeli group of Israelis I was speaking to. They're like, oh, I think the cops thought we were being too rowdy and turn their lights on to calm us down. It's like, the freaking hell's going on here? We'll find out. But anyway, let's play some music. Is this on? Okay. Which one am I going to do this time? What about this? Well, who's your daddy and what does he do?
Who is your daddy